because if somebody did, well, sorry, that somebody disagrees. No, sorry, delegate. I'll have to put it to the floor properly. So, Standing Orders Report number 4 proposes the extension of the time of this session to 4:30 p.m. and the reduction of the time for movers from 3 minutes to 2. And there is a request that, insofar as is possible, which is what is happening all day, that seconders would formally second. Now, all in favour of that, please show. All against. I declare Standing Orders Report number 4 carried. And we now proceed to deal with the motions on communications, climate action and the environment. And is there a mover for motion number 74? In the name of Wexford Constituency Council, you are now reduced to 2 minutes, Delegate.
Thank you very much, Jack. Joe Ryan, Wexford Town Branch. Comrades, wish to move this motion on behalf of Wexford Town. About 3 years ago, Alex White, as Communications Minister, announced a competition to seek a national broadband provider, within which 5 years would have given us nationally high-speed internet throughout the country with 100% coverage. Labour expected that within a year 1.6 million homes would have had high-speed broadband. Labour had a clear plan when in office. By October 2018, 85% of the country should have been directly connected to the national broadband network, and the job should have been completed by 2020. What was achievable 3 years ago has now been long-fingered by this government. And then Labour left the political scene. Left behind on the incoming minister's desk was a clear plan to select a company capable of delivering a broadband network to give rural communities like those in South Wexford the opportunity to share the broadband speeds that urban communities like Wexford Town accept as normal. But the reality now is quite different to what Labour aspired to. Recent figures confirm a broadband penetration in County Wexford of 67% and not 85%, and according to the then Minister Denis Naughton, the best that could be hoped for in our county is 74% penetration. What has transpired under Denis Naughton and Leo Varadkar is the political equivalent of "come dine with me", and in this case the options, though, are off the menu. Well, like a Saturn V rocket, the National Broadband Plan has set off in its journey, dropping off parts as it goes. Firstly, Cyro and Vodafone, then Air, making the competition a one-horse race. The market didn't deliver competition and will not deliver. Just like housing, Fine Gael's Ireland of Opportunity gives many no option when it comes to broadband. Denis Naughton, with the support of Fine Gael, has overseen a competition that dragged on and lost companies and the technological expertise and the infrastructure of the poles that can actually deliver real improvement in broadband. But they had their dinner dates with those that wanted to take a punt. They had no experience in delivering to customers. Conference, I would like to say more, but I'm mindful that my 2 minutes are up. I just commend the motion to the conference. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for motion 74? Bridget, thank you. Is there a mover for motion 75 from Rathfarnham Branch in Dublin South West? Aideen.
Thank you, Chair. Comrades, delegates, I suppose the motion that we put forward to you today from the Rathfarnham Branch is aiming to do a number of things. We're looking at establishing a commission that will look at the potential for job creation in the green economy. Therefore, I suppose, moving away from producing carbon emissions in as much as we can. We are also looking for an implementation strategy in order to move to a green or zero carbon economy. But more importantly, we're also looking for it to be funded and implemented, which I think is obviously a major thing that we would have to look at. We put this forward on the basis that what we want to do, or what we believe is important in the Rathfarnham Branch, is that we're looking at decarbonising the economy, which is obviously a great benefit to society, but always and at all times prioritising job creation, job security and protecting decent and unionised employment. Comrades, we are going to see radical changes in the way work is, I suppose, just in the nature of work over the next number of years and decades. What this motion aims to do is actually to be ahead of that curve and at all times looking at prioritising social outcomes for workers, their families and their communities. We've had some good motions put forward over the course of the weekend so far in the areas of looking at big infrastructural projects. We've talked about the creation of cycle lanes, we've talked about the creation of social housing. What our motion would do would be prioritising those big projects, but also looking at, I suppose, the workers that are involved in putting those projects together and bringing them to fruition and bringing them to reality. We put forward the motion on the basis that we believe that the current government is playing into the narrative that it's about the individual, it's the individual's responsibility to tackle climate change. But comrades, as a Labour Party, we believe in the power of the collective, we believe in the power of society, and that's why we believe the state should play a strong role in moving to a zero carbon economy, and we really would appreciate it if you would support our motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aidan. And is there a seconder? Formally seconded. Thank you, Delegate. Now, motion number 76 in the name of Galway City East Branch, Galway West constituency. Motion number 76. Is there somebody here from Galway? Formally moved. Thank you, Delegate. Is it seconded? Formally seconded. Thank you, Delegate. So now motions number 74, 75 and 76 are properly before conference. Are there any speakers offering? 2 speakers.
Thanks, Chair. Delegates, I'm Kieran Ahern from the Rathfarnham branch as well. I just want to say climate justice needs to be a core Labour issue. The impact of climate change is and will be felt first and foremost by those on the fringes of our society, the very poorest. Those who contribute least to it are going to be the worst affected by it. Just yesterday evening, Dublin South West, we put forward a motion to make elimination of poverty the #1 goal of this party. And if working to mitigate the worst effects of climate change doesn't fall squarely within that goal, then I don't really know what does. Climate change is also a feminist issue. You know, 80% of those displaced around the world are women. 90% of women in Africa work in agriculture. This is going to be disproportionately affected by climate change. You know, we are such a generous country. We show solidarity through fundraising for various countries. I'd say everyone in this conference room has fundraised at some point for education or healthcare in a developing country. But the countries and cities most at risk are the likes of Calcutta, Dhaka in Bangladesh, Thailand, Myanmar, all of these countries. We now need to show our solidarity in different ways, delegates. We need to change our behaviours at home and change the focus of our industries. And Michael D gets it. Michael D is making sustainability a core, one of his core means of his election. He wants to promote the forms of economic activity which operate in an ethical way, respecting the environment and supporting decent employment. It's not a coincidence that the 2 Labour presidents of Ireland, Mary Robinson and Michael D, have made climate justice a core part of their lives' work. They see the need and they understand the opportunities. And it was heartening last night to hear Kevin Humphreys talking about, using sustainable transport and cycling to move towards Ireland's goals of eliminating our carbon. He gets it. We've got to move to a green economy. We've got to stop being afraid about it and get ahead of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Adrian, and while Adrian is approaching the podium, can I just remind you, delegates, that it's 1 minute now for speakers, and that timer is giving you 2, but ignore it, it's 1.
Okay, I'll do my best, Chair. Adrian Kane, Blackrock, Mahon Branch, Cork, South Central. I'm actually here to oppose motion 76 from Galway for one simple reason. It calls for the immediate end of the use of peat and coal for electricity generation. If we were to do that, the lights would go out. Of a calm day, Moneypoint still generates up to 33% of our electricity, and it's not possible to do that. Bord na Móna, where I worked most of my life and represented the workers in it, have gone through an announcement 2 weeks ago in which they will be out of peat by 2025. SIP2, my own union, has been promoting the concept of a just transition to a greener climate. And we passed a similar motion to that effect 2 years ago. We have to get out of carbon emitting energy. Everybody knows that. There are no jobs on a dead planet. But it's about timing, and we need that bit of time in terms of trying to use, as what we had suggested, of using the PSO on peat to be put into a structural fund for retraining and for job developments in the towns that are most affected, such as Ferban, Road, Shannon Bridge, and all the small towns and villages that grew up because of Bordemona and the ESB over the last 40 or 50 years. So there's a lot to commend in the Galway motion, by the way, but that first point itself, I think, you know, if it could be referred back, but I would be speaking against it on that basis. Thank you very much, Chair.
Wait now, sorry, Adrian. Adrian, are you asking Galway City East Branch to accept reference to, not reference back, reference to? Reference to the Central Council. Now, the delegate from Galway, do you want to approach the rostrum, please? Just, will you approach the rostrum, please? Andrew, sorry, Andrew.
Delegates, thank you, and I don't want to take too much of your time. We were very specific in our motion in saying that we wanted an immediate end, because that is what that is what climate change demands. It is a big ask, and I understand that it is something that is going to be controversial and is going to impact people in their labour, but it is also it is the right it is the right response on a holistic basis, and it is the right response for us to make as a policy position.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
So you're not accepting reference to?
I would prefer not, no.
Okay, so if are there any other speakers offering? There are no other speakers. I'm going to invite Sean Sherlock, party spokesman on the environment, to respond to the debate.
Thank you. In a few short minutes, and just to try and get us back on track time-wise, I just want to speak to broadband in the first instance, and just to say that we accept Joe's and the Wexford Constituency Council motion here. The issue of broadband is now predicated on a report that is to come from Peter Smith. But I think anybody with any semblance of common sense who is looking at the issue of broadband now can't have confidence in the national broadband scheme, because there are just too many errors that have been made. And so what I would propose here today is that we would employ a resource, a mechanism called the Services of General Economic Interest, which would allow the state to invest in an infrastructure through, for instance, the ESB network, to put in place an infrastructure into every home that would allow for broadband and fibre to be delivered to the home. And again, we now need to start talking about common sense, because I believe strongly that there is little or no confidence in the government's ability to be able to roll out a broadband scheme. I would not be in favour of the renationalisation of AIR, but I am in favour, absolutely, in investing in ESB, which we own, and let them roll out the infrastructure on a wholesale basis, and then let the market compete for the individual packages to come into every home. So that's the first proposal that I am making. In relation to climate change, we have the recommendations of the Citizens' Assembly. I fully support the recommendations of the Citizens' Assembly. There are 13 voted recommendations. Justice Mary Lafoy, I think, did a tremendous job. There would have been scepticism about the idea of setting up a Citizens' Assembly in the first instance because of the perception that it usurped the role of Parliament, if you will, or the democratic process. But there are 13 voted recommendations there that are absolutely radical. I am a member of the Joint Committee on Climate Action, and I will make sure, and I make sure daily, that the Labour voice is heard in ensuring that that report will be absolutely radical in terms of what we need to do as a society to bring about the change to mitigate against the effects of climate action. I would ask sincerely for Galway East, and I note what Mr O'Boyle has said, but we do need to talk about the just transition. I think there is something in the language of the just transition that allows for a transition period. It absolutely acknowledges the deleterious effects of climate change, but it does allow for the protection of workers in a transition period. And that is the language that I'm going to incorporate into the Climate Action Committee report as well. But I do ask for some little bit of compromise there, if at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. So now we're going to vote on these motions. Motion number 74, in the name of Wexford Constituency Council. All in favour, please show. All against. I declare the motion carried. Motion number 75, in the name of Rathfarnham Branch. All in favour, please show. All against. I declare the motion carried. And now we come to motion 76, and there was a proposal to refer the motion to, not back, to the Central Council, which means that the motion is dealt with by the Central Council on the basis of dealing with the difference around the immediate versus on the peat issue. So, all in favour of the reference to, please show. All against. I declare the proposal to refer the motion to the incoming Central Council to be carried. Thank you, delegates.